So, good morning. This is a festive holiday season week. Some of you who are celebrating Passover, hope you found the afikomen last night. And if not, then those kids can look again tonight. You have a second shot at it. And for those celebrating Easter, good luck on the Easter egg hunt this weekend. On Monday, after we finished our session, I was taking down some of the charts that I didn't think I would need today, and I looked at the Eleanor Fargion poem, Cats. And there was something about the title that didn't seem just right. There was just something off. And so I thought I would Google it and see if that was the correct title. And indeed, I found out that it isn't. Eleanor Fargion titled her poem, Cats Sleep Anywhere. And so I thought, wow, that is so interesting, and what a smart decision. I know I always struggle to think about titles for my poems, and I wouldn't do this every time, but we noticed on Monday that her beginning line is the last line of the poem, and we identified that and said that that is a circle poem, when the first line returns again at the end. But in addition to doing that, the poetic decision that Eleanor Fargion made is to also title her poem, Cats Sleep Anywhere. So it's kind of an introduction, and then she leads into that line that begins and ends the poem. And I like that technique and device. We've had a very busy few days. On Monday, we learned how to write, you learned how to write, and together we wrote list poems. And on Tuesday, Lorraine introduced us to rhyme. And tomorrow you're going to have a lot of fun putting what she taught us into practice as you write your own rhyming poems. And yesterday, Lisa showed us how to write haiku. And I love that she had her resident daughter poet with her for that session. And so I've added some of the things we've been learning this week to the chart we already began that started with the elements and characteristics that we learned about poetry last week. And those are written in black. But I decided to show how this is a growing chart, and we're going to continue to learn more elements and characteristics and strategies for implementing them and using them in our own poetry writing. And so I added to has form, haiku, and list poems, because those are two very specific forms of poetry. And then in addition, I added that poems can rhyme and they can also be unrhymed. So we're learning and growing this chart and kind of our toolbox of ideas and things that we can write about when we have our hand at poetry writing. And our writing folders, or our poetry folders, are a very good place to keep all of this work, because you can return to them for new and interesting ideas at poetry time. But we've already learned that poets get their ideas in a variety of ways. They get them from their memories, the things that are happening to them, the places they go, the people in their lives. They get ideas from their noticings, just the little things they see throughout a day that they pay attention to, that has some meaning for them. They get ideas for poetry from their emotions and feelings, what they're thinking about things and how they feel about those things. They get ideas from the magazines and flyers and books that they read. They also get ideas for poetry from their observations, and we learned that they can look at the ordinary and see it in extraordinary ways, but that also poets can look very closely at something and describe it with rich, interesting language. And so as we gather ideas, as you write more poems, you also are in the process of thinking about what it is that you're writing, the things that are on your mind, the questions you may have and your wonderings about those things. And I asked you to submit some questions, things that are on your mind. And here are some of the ones that were submitted. First question, one question is, how can the moon and the sun be in the sky at the same time? And then next question, Why can't people find a way to get along in the world? Why does New York get snow and Florida never gets any? Another question. How do the planets and the moon not fall out of the sky? How does a GPS work? I often wonder about that myself. And then the last question is, I saw a sign in Central Park that says, be smart, stay 6 feet apart. And the wondering is, for how long do we have to do this? I'm going to read 2 wondering poems. And as I read them aloud to you, I want you to think what the poets may have wondered about or questioned that could have led to their poem. In a way, if they were working with us this week, what question or wondering might they have submitted? The first poem is by Gwendolyn Brooks. And it's titled, Pete at the Zoo. Pete at the zoo. I wonder if the elephant is lonely in his stall when all the boys and girls are gone and there's no shout at all, and there's no one to stamp before, no one to note his might. Does he hunch up as I do against the dark of night? How interesting. She's thinking about that, and I thought about that too. Like, what's zoo life like for the animals after all the visitors are gone? What are they doing? And your imagination can run wild with that. What I want you to notice is that, in fact, she poses the question, she asks the question, but she's not answering it. She's just thinking more about it. She's playing around with it and just continuing that wondering. The next poem is The Question. And this poem is by Carla Cuskin. People always say to me, what do you think you'd like to be when you grow up? And I say, why? I think I'd like to be the sky, or be a plane or train or mouse, or maybe a haunted house, or maybe something furry, rough and wild, or maybe I will stay a child. And again, Carla Cuskin does what Gwendolyn Brooks did. And that's that she's not answering her question. She's just thinking about it. How many times I wonder, as a kid now, someone is asking you that question, what do you think you want to be when you grow up? I know I was asked that question a lot. And to be honest, I always wanted to be a teacher. It took me a little bit longer than I thought to get here, but I knew at a very early age I wanted to be a teacher. But I also had some other ideas along the way, and I tried those out, being a chef. And so I might have wondered about something like that as well. So in both these poems, they're posing questions, they're thinking about things, but they're not answering that question. I must be honest with you and let you know that this last question about seeing a sign in Central Park that says, be smart, stay 6 feet apart, and then the kind of wondering, for how long do we have to do this, is my wondering. It's my question. And I thought that's what I want to write my wondering poem about today. And I thought, as I thought about it, I know that I want to include the words of the sign, be smart, stay 6 feet apart. And I think I want to make it, or I know I want to have a hand try again to write a circle poem, that beginning line, coming back to it at the end. But I do struggle with titles. So for today, I'm going to make those words, which are strong, powerful words, I'm going to make the words on the sign the title of my poem. And not only do I want to circle around and have the beginning come back again at the end, but in addition, I want to use repetition. So I want to use it more frequently than just as my title, beginning and ending lines. And so here's start of my poem, or kind of what I've been thinking about. And I just kind of laid out paper that I think will remind me where I want to use repetition, where I want to have this repeating line come in, and then the words in between each of the lines of repetition. Be smart, stay 6 feet apart. Saying goodbye to Lucy after having dinner together seems so long ago. When will I see her again? Be smart. Stay 6 feet apart. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Not this baseball season. Next spring seems so far away. When will we play baseball again? Be smart. Stay 6 feet apart. Summer fun, still hoping. Beach parties, mountain hiking, park picnics. When will we gather in groups again? Be smart. Stay 6 feet apart. Now, I'm thinking about it, and even now in this moment, I wanted to say more. I thought I was clear when I started that I wanted that circle structure to come to be the form of my poem. But as I'm reading it aloud to you and thinking about it as I read, I really want to have a surprise ending. I want that, what Lisa called zinger at the end, and it doesn't really have that the way I've ended it now. I think that I'm wondering more about what it's going to be like when these restrictions that are in place are no longer exist. And we're back to what we're used to doing at the summertime, having beach parties, going hiking, seeing our friends. And that's where I really want to end my poem. And so, in thinking about it, I want to think, what will that be like when it's in the past? And I know when I'm driving sometimes, I look at that rear view mirror at the top, and I'm seeing things as they fade away in the distance. And that's what I want my poem to do now. I want it to have that ending. And so I think I'm going to add the words, now seen in our rear view mirror. And that's how I would like to end my poem. Now seen in our rear. I'm going to put each word on a separate line, rear view mirror. Because I really want to slow that down and think about it fading away, dripping into the past. And so, today, as we leave our session, I want you to think about a wondering or something that you have that you want to turn into a poem. Those of you who submitted these wonderings, they're good ones, and you might want to write your poem about that, any of those. Or others of you are thinking about things as we've been together this morning. So I want you to take a wondering that you're going to turn into the poem, and I want you to do what good poets do. You're going to get a clear picture of that image, of what you want to put into the poem. And you're going to make decisions about which elements you want to use in your poetry writing. You could even turn this into a haiku if you wanted. You could do it as a list poem. You could do it as a poem with 3 stanzas. We've learned a lot about what poets and poetry looks like. I want you to have fun. I don't think we focused enough on that. And choose a title. Some poets like to start with the title, and some find that the title grows after they've written the poem, and it just kind of comes to them, it pops out. For Friday's lesson, Lorraine has asked that you bring your poetry folder, paper, and a writing tool, and if you have colored pencils or something that you can draw with. And I want to remind you that we're calling all our poets to submit your poems for our poetry contest. We're going to be announcing winners on April 24th. So as we keep saying every day, be safe, and poetry for all and all for poetry. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.